This is a presentation for the Orange County Registrar Voters Office. This presentation will go over the Election Observer Guidelines training. For your information, the Election Observer Guidelines Handbook for the November 3rd, 2020 Presidential General Election is available online in the election library at ocvote.com/election-library. As an overview of this training, we will be going over General Observer Guidelines, Public Observation in COVID-19, pre-election day, vote center operations, and post-election day. For General Observer Guidelines, what is the Registrar Voters Code of Conduct? Observers must check in with vote center staff or check in at the lobby if visiting the Registrar of Voters office in Santa Ana to receive a visitor's badge daily, which must always be worn at the central office. Scheduled operations and processes continue whether an observer is present or not. Observer activity is limited to witnessing whether proper procedures are being followed. So what are observers responsible for? Observers must check in at each site, whether it is a vote center or at the central office, and identify as an election observer. Maintaining a professional manner while observing the election process and not interfering with the voting and election process and following established observation rules and procedures and policies. So what are observers allowed to do? Observers can view all activities at vote centers during the 5 days of in-person voting, view mail ballot and provisional ballot processing, view all activities at the central counting site on election day, and view canvass activities following election day at the central counting site. In addition, before and during the observed process, observers may quietly ask questions of the process supervisor or vote center staff. Observers may not communicate with any staff member who is engaged in the observed process while it is taking place. So what else are observers allowed to do? Observers can take notes and watch all procedures. They can view and obtain information on the street index of voters by visiting ocvote.com/street index. Observers can also make challenges on whether procedures are being followed. All challenges must be lodged in a manner provided by law. If a challenge unduly impedes or interferes with the work process, challenges shall be discontinued. So what else are observers not allowed to do? Observers cannot interfere in any way with voting and election operations, such as touching any voting materials, assisting with operations or equipment, or sitting at the official tables. Observers are also not allowed to take pictures or video or use cameras or phones for the purpose of challenging. Observers are also not allowed to converse with voters within 100 feet of the entrance to a vote center regarding the casting of a vote, soliciting a vote, or speaking to a voter regarding his or her qualifications to vote. Observers are also not allowed to challenge a voter. Observers should contact the Registrar of Voters with more information. Additionally, observers are not allowed to display any election material or wear campaign badges, buttons, or apparel, as this is electioneering. Observers cannot wear the uniform of a peace officer, a private guard, or security personnel, use cellular phones, pagers, or two-way radios inside the vote center and or within 100 feet of the entrance of a vote center. Observers are also not allowed to talk to staff while they are processing ballots or engaged in a process. Additionally, observers are not allowed to touch election personnel or voters, eat or drink in the vote center or the central counting site, assist in operations at any vote center, talk in a loud voice, cause confusion, or congregate inside a vote center. Observers are not allowed to be in the area between the official table, the voting booths, and scanners, as it is for voters only and may not be used as an observer post. In regards to public observation in COVID-19, the Registrar of Voters has expanded opportunities to observe remotely and in person while maintaining health and safety guidelines. There will be limited opportunities to observe prior to election day due to the number of activities. However, there will be more observation opportunities after Election Day as more activities will be active. There will be space limitations due to physical distancing and equipment limitations due to resource availability. Some remote observation opportunities of central processes include vote by mail processing, election night operations, post-election canvass, signature checking, ballot duplication, provisional vote processing, and post-election audits. Regarding remote observation, interested individuals must apply online and agree to guidelines such as not recording or transmitting voter data or ballot information, not using force, violence, intimidation, and anything similar, and also not interfere with the election or canvass. The application to apply for remote observation will be available on October 1st. Remote observation opportunities will begin October 7th. Once approved, individuals can select what processes to observe, and depending on the operations calendar, certain processes will only be available to observe at certain dates and times. If you are interested in applying for remote observation permission, you can visit ocvote.com/observe. On the topic of challenges and remote observation, no challenges will be accepted remotely for any reason at any time. All challenges must be made in person at the Registrar Voters Office in Santa Ana. For those interested in in-person observation at the Santa Ana office, there are some core requirements. Observers must wear a face covering, maintain physical distancing of 6 feet, complete a COVID-19 questionnaire, and watch an orientation video. Pre-election observation. So what election activities can be observed during the pre-election period? Such activities include ballot creation and voting equipment preparation and testing. Creation of the ballot begins with associating a particular combination of contests with each precinct. A ballot is created based on the ballot type and candidate order. After the ballot is created, voting equipment preparation begins and testing to ensure that the equipment is loaded with the correct election database. Logic and accuracy testing of voting system to conduct central count of vote by mail and precinct ballots. The logic and accuracy testing of the voting system is done to ensure that the hardware and software to be used are working together properly as individual units and as a combined system. Accuracy is tested by casting and tabulating ballots for which the results are known. Logic testing ensures that the vote tabulation program and hardware correctly interprets, summarizes, and reports voters' choices. In addition, during the pre-election period, you can also view vote center equipment preparation. After the ballot is created and logic and accuracy testing is completed, vote center equipment preparation and supplies assembly and distribution begins. For the November 3rd, 2020 presidential general election, vote by mail ballots, operations, and processing may begin 29 days before Election Day, which is October 5th. Processing vote by mail ballots includes verifying signatures on the outside of the envelope, resolving ballots, and preparing ballots for counting. Vote center operations, 5-day voting period. The list of vote center locations can be found online at ocvote.com/vote center. For the November 3rd, 2020 presidential general election, all vote centers will start opening on October 30th and operate between 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. between October 30th and November 2nd. On Election Day, November 3rd, vote centers will be operated between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. This is a possible vote center layout. Each vote center layout will be designed with physical distancing for all who may be inside the voting room, including vote center personnel, voters, and observers. Observers will be required to wear face coverings and will be asked to follow safety measures as outlined by vote center staff. Floor markers inside and outside of the vote center will help determine the voting room's capacity. Observers who know each other and are observing on behalf of the same organization candidate, or campaign are encouraged to coordinate with each other so that to maximize opportunities for voters to cast their ballot and for others to participate in observation as well. The number of observers may be limited at the discretion of the Registrar of Voters in any given vote center depending on physical distancing and COVID-19 safety precautions. Post-election operations. So what election activities can be observed during the post-election period? This would include semi-final official results, which are posted on election night. These include all the votes cast at vote centers and vote-by-mail ballots received prior to Election Day. Beginning at 8:05 p.m., the first semi-official results are posted, and after 8:30 p.m., results are updated every 30 minutes until all vote center counts have been reported. In the official canvass, we audit and account for all ballots that were issued, voted, and those that were not used. This includes processes such as inspecting returned materials and supplies, processing and counting any valid vote-by-mail and provisional ballots not included in the semi-final official results, duplicating any damaged ballots, and reporting the final results to the Secretary of State. The post-election audit is the final step in the canvass period before certifying the election. Transparency and the ability for the public to observe the audit process is a key component of any post-election audit, including risk-limiting audits. For the November 3rd, 2020 presidential general election, the Registrar of Voters will implement observation guidelines intended to protect the public and staff, such as live streaming the process and identifying a designated area for members of the public to physically observe the audit process. Once the post-election audit is complete, the ballots are sealed for storage for a minimum amount of years set by the Elections Code. Then the election can be officially certified with preparing the statement of votes cast and preparing certificates of election to be provided to candidates that are elected to office. As a recap, post-election activities that observers can observe include processing provisional ballots, condition of voting ballots, and vote-by-mail ballots received at vote centers and ballot drop boxes, ballot duplication, processing ballots with write-in candidates, and post-election audits. Here are some important reminders about the upcoming November 3rd, 2020 presidential general election. If you have questions about your registration, you can visit ocvote.com/verify. On this website, you can check your voter registration record, see the status of your ballot, download an electronic voter information guide, and find out who your local elected officials are. Additionally, here are some important dates. On Thursday, September 24, 2020, voter information guide mailing began. On Monday, October 5th, 2020, vote-by-mail mailing begins, and ballot drop boxes are also open. On Monday, October 19th, 2020, voter registration deadline. This is a 15-day voter registration deadline. Tuesday, October 20th, 2020, this is when the same-day voter registration period begins. On Friday, October 30th, 2020, all vote centers are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. until Monday, November 2nd, 2020. On Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, which is Election Day, all vote centers will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Ballot drop boxes will close at 8 p.m. and all vote-by-mail ballots must be postmarked by this date and received in our office no later than 17 days after Election Day. For more information, please visit our website at ocvote.com or follow us on social media. We have accounts on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching this training.